Filmsnobbery is brought to you by Sony Creative and Vegas Pro 9 editing software, professional video editing, audio production, and Blu-ray disc production. Final Draft, the industry standard for script writing, version 8 now available. And Boris Effects, the advanced level plugin and application for all kinds of editing fun. Also check out their Red, Continuum, and Graffiti software suites. And we're back, everyone. I just want to welcome everyone here. I also want to welcome our special guest, director of the trailer you just saw for Vomit, as well as the author of the new book, Think Outside the Box Office, Mr. Jon Reiss himself. Jon, hello, sir. Thank you for being on the show.
Hey, thanks for having me.
It's
really
like we haven't talked in forever. Thank you for coming on. I'm glad you could fit us into your schedule. I know that things really are hectic for you right now because every time I turn around, you're on someone else's show, or you've got some writing, some blog posts I've seen you, and also you're in the very near future you're going to be in Sundance speaking at the Filmmaker Summit with a guest of ours we just had on, Mr. Zach Forsman, as well as Ted Hope. And even Steven Soderbergh is the keynote there. Am I correct?
I think so. I'm not exactly sure the exact. I know he's on the program, and I think they're Skyping him in from Ireland.
Ooh.
So it should be pretty fun.
That should be excellent. So, you're an independent filmmaker. You made this documentary called Vomit, which everyone can find over at www.vomit-movie.com.
Yeah, vomit-themovie.com.
Themovie.com.
Yeah, there's a link to our store there. Yeah.
Yeah.
And you can also get it from the book's website, which is thinkoutsidetheboxoffice.com. So you can buy it as a two-pack with the book if you want.
Yeah, and I highly encourage everyone to do that. I mean, it's not like you need to see the movie to get the references in the book, but I think that you might relate to it a little bit better. I highly recommend that. Now, being a filmmaker who made this movie, and you went through the whole process of distribution, good and bad. What then entered your mind to say, I got to write a book about this?
Well, what happened was I was in the depths of the distribution, and my executive producer said, "Man, you're like kind of crazy," and but I guess in a good way. And he said that I should like write about my experiences because he hadn't seen anyone do it the way I had been doing it. And so he suggested I contact Scott at Filmmaker magazine, and Scott asked me to write a series of articles for Filmmaker based on what I was doing for Vomit. And the first one actually was subtitled "How I Spent 6 Months Wanting to Kill Myself Every Day," because it really was, that's what it feels like. It's so difficult to do this stuff on your own that you really think like you're going crazy. And, so I wrote that article. That was pretty successful. He had me write another one, and then I started getting a lot of feedback from filmmakers. And when I wrote the articles were only supposed to be like a couple thousand words, and they ended up being twice that long. And I still wasn't really able to express everything I wanted to talk about, and wasn't able to cover all the ground that I felt needed to be covered for filmmakers to kind of not have to reinvent the wheel that I felt like I was reinventing. So I just started talking to people, and, people said, well, you should write a book about it. And little by little, it kind of grew on me. And so I started writing it during, right after Tribeca. I think I did some interviews at Tribeca last May, and I just spent 6 months basically nonstop writing it. And it's not just my experience, it's influenced or kind of launched from my experiences, but then I realized that my experiences didn't cover all the ground because, each one of the things I believe is that each film is unique. So I talked to a lot of other filmmakers to get their experiences. I talked to distributors. I talked to different vendors. I talked to different types of distributors, digital distributors, DVD distributors, theatrical distributors, to get the real perspective on what's going on now in the collapse of the studio independent distribution model.
And I think that you really, I was actually making a comment to my executive producer a little bit ago for something that is called The Ultimate Guide to Film Distribution and Marketing for the Digital Era. Being that it's only about 350 pages long, I was really surprised at the amount of information that it is packed into it. Especially, I was actually really also impressed with the fact that you are, a filmmaker, which is something that is and essentially a visual medium where you tell stories through pictures versus this book, which leads you to telling your story and also telling I guess an amalgam of other people's stories in a very wordy manner. And I don't mean that as a detriment to the book. I think that you do a very good job of explaining a lot of the especially your hybrid theories of distribution and also some of the other bits and pieces of specifically promotion that you get into.
Okay.
Yeah, I really enjoyed it. Did you find that to be difficult transition?
No, because I think to be a director, you have to think systematically. Mm-hmm. I mean, it's a visual medium, but you have to think in a very kind of you have to have a creative mind, but you also have to have a very logical, practical mind. And I think mine tends to be more than most filmmakers. I mean, I also do a lot of producing. My undergraduate degree was in economics, so a lot of my brain kind of thinks this way. And so, for better or worse, that's what kind of aided me in kind of creating a kind of system for filmmakers and how to view film rights kind of from a filmmaker's perspective and aiding them release their films. I kind of it seems to be that my brain thinks that way for one way or another. And it seems like I never really had practiced doing this kind of writing, nonfiction writing before. I've never done it before. And it just seemed like when I started writing Filmmaker magazine articles, it just seemed like, wow, I guess I kind of have a skill at this. I didn't realize how quickly it would come to me. I had written scripts before, but I had never written nonfiction in this way before. And it just, kind of came to me. So I'm lucky in that way.
Okay. Now, as far as I want to talk also about now. A lot of people, I sat here and I said, you know, a book that's the ultimate guide in 350 pages. A lot of people might say, well, Jesus, even the Filmmaker's Handbook is, you know, looks like the King James Bible. But one thing I didn't mention that I want to mention right now is that there is a companion website for this book out there, guys, and I want to bring it up. It's www.ultimatefilmguides.com, and it's going to be in a constant flux and evolution as new content is added by other filmmakers and other people involved in independent film, and Jon himself, and you know, and it's really you and I were speaking just briefly before, and I said it sounds to me almost like the Wikipedia for independent film, and you compared it to a couple other things as well. Would you like to expound upon that a little bit?
Yeah, it's like Wikipedia, but it's also like CNET, because the idea of it is to be a community resource where, you know, each of the categories of distribution and marketing, which are before you finish your film, what you should be doing during production and post and even prep, what I call live event theatrical, which is basically public screenings of your film, merchandising, which is basically DVDs, T-shirts, any kind of physical product, and then digital rights, and then also marketing. Those 5 areas then are broken down into sub-areas, and it's not sub-areas like they're not teaching areas yet, although I might add to that later. What they are is resources. So if you need to find a publicist, there will be a list of publicists. If you need to find a DVD distributor, there will be a list of DVD distributors. If you need to find a VOD aggregator, there will be VOD aggregators, sales agents, etc. And then not only that, and this is not only for people, you know, the aggregators themselves to upload themselves, but you as a filmmaker, if you know of like a great postcard printer that gives you good deals, you can upload that site, that resource yourself. Besides that, it also allows filmmakers to comment on, and this is where the CNET kind of Yelp aspect of it. It allows filmmakers to comment on each of these resources and also rate them. So it's a way for filmmakers, because what you see on the web, it's like, hey, does anyone know this? And hey, does anyone know that? And it's all kind of disparate and there's no central location for any of this information. And so that's what this is intended to be, is a repository for that kind of information, and also for filmmakers' feedback, so that you can hear from their filmmakers what they thought of new video, what they think of Cinetic, what they think of whoever is listed there. Mm-hmm. And then it's also for the company. So if a company says, hey, these guys are blah, 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 then the company can address that and go, wow, these guys think we suck. We better do something about it. So that's the intention of the site. And I hope, and it's community, and the idea is for people to participate with it. So I hope that people do, that everyone who goes there, because it's a free site. So if you're going to go use the site, I really hope that you upload a resource, you know, that you participate not just in like reading it, but that you also, you know, contribute to the site as well. And so that's, but I should say, we just put it live, and it's in very, very beta mode. Mm-hmm. So be very gentle. So for instance, the submit a resource, where it says submit a resource, we know resource is misspelled. Okay, so you know, there's stuff like that. So be very gentle. You know, you can upload, but you know, and if you have comments on it, if you notice that there's mistakes, please email me and let me know so I can fix them. But don't like get all up in my face about it, because you know we're just launching it now, and I haven't even checked everything yet. So,
and you know what, folks? I was going to say, sorry, and you know what, folks, you're only going to get out of it what you put into it. So if everyone in the chat room and everyone that was viewing right now went over to www.ultimatefilmguides.com and posted a resource or posted some sort of information in there that was useful, that they found useful to them, you would be helping the independent film community as a whole by adding a brand new resource to a site that is growing and could not only use your help, but you know, you'll be helping other people as well. So.
Yeah, and I should warn you, there's not a ton of stuff in there yet. I wasn't even going to, and this is really an early announcement. I was waiting to announce until there were more resources. So you're going to go there and you're going to see an architecture. You're not going to see a ton of stuff in there. Yep. So you can put stuff in there, but if you want to, you know, if you're expecting to see stuff, a lot of stuff in there, it's going to take a few weeks for me and whoever else is going to get involved to load it up. So, but you'll go and you'll see the architecture and you'll see that it's, I hope you'll see that it's useful, but you're not going to see a ton of things in there yet, but you'll see the potential of it. And what else was I going to say? There's one more thing I was going to say about. Oh, the other thing is, if you have a film that you're working on and you have a specific case study of like how you've handled your VOD sales or how you've handled dealing with piracy or something like that, in each of the areas there's a place to put your story, your case study there, and then other people can comment on it, and then you can comment back on how people are relating to your experience.
Now, you touched upon something just briefly there that you have in your book that is something that is not included in a lot of books about filmmaking or film distribution that are out today, and that is you do talk a lot about digital rights. A lot of people sit there and say like, well, there are resources out there like Netflix and IndieFlix and Hulu and all these Amazon VOD and all these things to release your film on, but you don't really, you're one of the few books out there that I was fairly impressed where you actually say like, remember that you actually have rights to that stuff and that, that there's a money making opportunity. And, if you have a couple quick comments about that, I'd be interested to hear it.
Yeah, I mean, the big thing is that, I'll just say this. I think you have to just back up a little bit in that I feel every film is unique, and every film needs a unique strategy to monetize themselves. And not just monetize themselves, but to reach their goals. And the first thing you have to figure out is, like, what your goals are, and then to seek out the best way to achieve those goals, in a sense. So, but yes, there are a lot of sites out there. There's a lot of ways that you can distribute your digital rights. It's best to have like a strategy about how you're going to approach those rights, because you can, and I've actually made mistakes, and part of what I talk about in the book is based on my experience making some mistakes with my own digital rights. I think I've actually done a pretty good job with it, but you have to be very cautious. That's one of the things I say about digital rights is that they're kind of a minefield, and you have to be very careful about who you assign what rights to and how you're monetizing each of those rights and how each of those rights are launching. So that's what. So I'd say, if anything, there's an overall point of being very careful about how you allocate your digital rights, because you can shoot yourself in the foot.
One of our viewers here on Twitter is @WarriorFilms asks, is there some kind of conference that goes with this book so people can share experiences and ideas? I think that at that point you may want to refer them back, Warrior Films, if you're listening, back to the www.ultimatefilmguides.com, which is what we were just referring to. Jerry actually just brought that up to me in a chat, and no, that's the place you're really going to want to go to share those experiences and stuff like that. But actually, he brings up just a slight bit of a question there that's pertinent. Is, do you have any ideas of whether or not you're going to be doing any sort of web seminars on this kind of stuff as supplemental stuff?
What I'm going to be doing, there's two things I'm going to do. One is that the site eventually will build out. There will be kind of like a membership site where I will be doing kind of more how-to. I'll probably charge some small amount of money per month to participate in that, because it's going to cost me money to maintain, and I'm going to have to spend the time doing it. So there's going to be that. The other thing is I'm probably going to start doing day-long seminars in different cities. And so, you can either join my email list from the Think Outside the Box Office site, or you can join my email list from my blog, which is jonreiss.com/blog. And then if you're interested in finding out about that. But if you buy a copy of the book, which I recommend that you do before you come to any of my seminars, frankly, then you'll be on my mailing list automatically. And the other thing I want to say about this, let me just say one more thing about the updating to the book, is that one of the things when you buy the book from the site is that I will be emailing out chapter updates to the book. So because the content does change, and not only will the content be changing on the website, the Ultimate Film Guides website, but I'm also going to be sending out chapter updates like every couple months or something like that. The first one that's going to be coming up is I did a pretty full-bore analysis of different fulfillment sites. From a filmmaker perspective, I did a whole spreadsheet, actually 2 whole spreadsheets analyzing the data from 6 different fulfillment options. And Filmmaker magazine is going to publish a abridged version of that article because it was too much. Again, it was too long for them. But everyone who buys the book will get the full version of that article. So
and you get a car, and you get a car. Don't
get me into the bonus gift that you get when you buy the book from my website. You know, it's so funny. It's like I never thought that I would turn into a marketer. You know, it's like I'm like an old punk rock anarchist, you know, like neo-Marxist, and now it's like half of what I do is marketing. So it's rather humorous, actually.
Is there a little free gift too? I didn't get a free gift. I want a free gift. No.
If you buy the book from the website, there's actually 9 free gifts. Many of which are discounts to actual distribution services. So you get like $100 off Distributor, you get $50 off Neoflix, you get $100 off DVD replication. Yep. But there's also like a free movie ticket to the American Cinematheque in Los Angeles, etc. Things like that.
Yeah, I was looking on there. I was just giving you an opportunity to talk about it. No, you've got a.
In fact, if I don't sound too much like an infomercial, in fact, the book more than pays for itself. In fact, the book actually pays you to buy it.
You really just pulled it, but wait, there's more. That's what you just did. So. No, that's good. And you know, I know you're totally pressed for time tonight, but one of the things I did want to ask you that I think a lot of filmmakers would definitely get a lot out of is in your opinion, your story with Bomb It, which I know you go over you know, throughout the book. As far as what your experience in marketing and distributing that movie was. My question though is, what would you do different if you had this book in your hands prior to your distribution?
Right. The big thing I would do different and what I would do next time, and the big thing that actually brings up the point that I really wanted to convey in this interview, is that, because I know there's a lot of filmmakers out there, it is so essential that you start this process at the very beginning of making a film. Do not wait until you are finished making a film to think about distribution and marketing. Mm-hmm. I firmly believe now that distribution and marketing need to be integrated with the production of the film, and actually is best when integrated with the production of the film. It's so difficult for so many reasons, which I go over in the book. Let me just explain that. Originally, there was going to be one chapter on what to do before you finish your film in the book. That chapter became a whole third of the book. Mm-hmm. It's that important. And it's like, and you can, I also feel that there's a lot of creative potential in the different kinds of marketing tools that you can use, and some of them aren't, I hate to call them marketing tools, because one of them is the whole concept of transmedia, which I feel can be used for marketing, but it's also such a breakthrough in filmmaker creative potential that I really am excited, number one, for myself to explore, but I'm also excited to see what other people come up with in how they kind of break outside the box, mm-hmm. for lack of a better term, in not only distributing and marketing their films, but even conceptualizing their films. So that would be the one thing that I would say to all filmmakers, is to really think about, you know, you look at that first section of the book while you're making your film and really see what you can do to help yourself get your film and have your film reach an audience by starting this process earlier. And the other thing, because I thought a lot about this, because I released my film myself, and it was really, really difficult, and I'm not necessarily a business person, so that if you're a filmmaker and you don't feel like you have the necessary skill set to do this kind of work, partner with someone who will, who does have this skill set. And I think that's also really important.
That goes back to something that actually our guest from our last show was a big proponent of, and I believe you also mentioned him in your book, and that is Slava Rubin of Indiegogo and his whole philosophy of doing it with others. And you mentioned that, I think, briefly in here as well. And no, that's true. I mean, ask any, Fortune 500 CEO, about how they run their business. And a lot of them, after some cajoling and drinks, will probably say, I just surrounded myself with people who knew more about my industry than I did, or knew more about what I didn't know. And that's the truth of what happens. Now, I think this is maybe the only time I will come to contention with you in this interview, very briefly, is that one of the things I felt that, and I think I put it in my criticism on the site, one of the things that I felt that it didn't necessarily cater to, but I think that if filmmakers of this certain range can certainly glean information from it and adapt it to themselves, is it seemed like there was a lot of information in here covering for productions that were of a certain budgetary area. Like you kind of say a lot of stuff of, you go to hire people or something like that, but, or like even someone to help you blog or something like that. But, for no money, it might be hard to find someone to blog for you for like the 3 years that it'll probably conceptually take for you to get from pre-production to distribution. Do you feel that you really need to have that your book maybe doesn't appeal to an audience of maybe that are making films for, say, $2,000 to $5,000, or do you think that there's a way for them to adapt what you're putting in here, even for that ultra micro budget movie?
Yeah, I think if you're doing a micro budget movie, you're doing more things yourself, you're kind of taking longer to craft your film. And I think you just have to add the distribution and marketing component into that. So you just have to, I just think that however you do it, that's, for me, and I use this as a guidepost in a way to kind of like call attention to this. It's kind of the new 50-50, that you have to take 50% of your time devoted to making the film and 50% of your time and resources towards distribution and marketing. However you cobble that together and however you allocate your resources of time and money or crew, it's just a mindset shift that you can't anymore only make a film, that you really have to think about how you're going to have that film seek out an audience. Mm-hmm. And I do feel that you can get a lot of help, because I talk about quote-unquote hiring crew, but I believe in the book I talk quite a bit about having people be interns, giving people credit instead of money. If you don't have money, make them, have this person. That's why I call it a producer of marketing and distribution. Honor that person with a credit, that's equivalent to their title. I mean, equivalent to the work that they're doing. And you can start people off at a researcher position and then move them up to associate producer. And then if they keep on working, they can then be a co-producer. And if they last the whole 3 years with you, then they should be producer on the film. Mm-hmm. So it's like, but if people drop out after 6 months, then you have a lot of associate producers. If you look at the credits of Vomit, there's a ton of people in there, and a lot of those people were interns and people who came and I gave them associate producer credit for a significant period of time. Like, for instance, the guy who's now blogging for Vomit, he earned a co-producer credit by agreeing to blog for Vomit for 2 years. And that's how he earned his co-producer credit, by doing that and doing a little bit. He also did some theatrical booking. But through that, he earned himself a co-producer credit on Vomit. I didn't pay him anything, but he did it because he wanted. But he started off as a booker, then he moved up to associate producer, and then I bumped him up to co-producer. So I think there's a lot of creative ways that people with very little resources and limited means can do what I talk about in the book. What I talk about in the book, it doesn't start from any sort of monetary perspective. I mean, I do have different levels of budget. I do feel like doing a full-bore release with a full-fledged theatrical and full-fledged, that does take some resources. But you don't have to do it that way. You don't have to do it the way I do it. And I think I did it, per se, and I think there's ways to do it now that you can do it even cheaper than I did it, because part of what I did in the book is I think by reclaiming the theatrical experience and taking any form of live event and calling it a theatrical screening, any filmmaker can create a theatrical release for themselves and say that they had a theatrical release. If you have 20 public screenings across the United States, in my mind, you've had a theatrical release. And none of them are in a conventional theater.
Yeah, no, and you actually give an example of using film festivals as your theatrical release platform, and using film festivals as more of a tool of theatrical release rather than a means of finding distribution, like the traditional model is generally thought of.
And I think what people have been saying for the last couple of years, the film festivals are the theatrical release. I believe that you use the film festivals as part of your theatrical release and then screen it in other venues as well to create a more robust theatrical release for yourself.
Right.
And in that way, you can create, what I feel is my book allows filmmakers to use very minimal resources to create releases that wouldn't have been thought of to be able to do for those resources in the past. But, usually if you don't have so much money, usually that will involve more time. So you just have to allocate, you have to just be judicious about how you allocate your resources and be prepared that it's going to take at least an equivalent amount of work that it took to make your film as to release it in general. That won't apply to every film, but I would say in general, that's a pretty decent guideline.
Well, I thank you. You kind of allayed a lot of my fears with that, and I appreciate it. And I want to thank you, first of all, for allowing me to not only read your book, but also to review it. And thank you for, accepting my review, good or otherwise, and coming and agreeing to come on and talk about the various parts of your book and what you're doing here. Because I do feel it's valuable. I do feel that it is important for filmmakers to, as you put it with the title of the book, think outside the box office, come up with new ways of distribution, whether it be theatrical or other. And I thank you for just doing what you do. And I look forward to hearing about what comes out of the Filmmaker Summit at Sundance. And thank you very much again
for having me on. I really appreciate it. And happy to be on. And whenever you want to call me back, as you can see, I like to talk.
I could probably talk to you easily for the hour, but I know that you've got some stuff to do. I will keep you, but thank you again for just even for agreeing. Everyone, that was the author of Think Outside the Box Office, Mr. Jon Reiss. There he is. So thank you. Now, as far as the rest of everything's going, we've got a great rest of our show for you tonight. I want to remind everyone again, if they want to get Think Outside the Box Office, they can go to www.thinkoutsidetheboxoffice.com. If you want to see some more or learn some more about Mr. Jon Reiss, you can go to www.jonreiss.com. Check out his blog at jonreiss.com/blog. And of course, you can reach him on Twitter, twitter.com/Jon_Reiss. Remember, John is spelled Jon, like Jon Stewart. So easy to remember, whether you're thinking Jon Stewart, the Green Lantern, or the talk show host. So we've got a great other second half of the show here for you. Jerry, how did you find our guest?
I thought it was an awesome interview, very enlightening. I definitely want to get the book now, and I didn't interrupt at all because it was like moving so well. I didn't want to just burst in or take anything away from that. That's why I was even sending you the questions that were showing up in the chat. I didn't want to interrupt.
No, that was fine, and I appreciate you doing that. I actually have two chats open with you and the executive producer and everything. I'm happy. So again, make sure everyone checks out, our previous guests here, Zach Forsman and Jon Reiss over at the Filmmaker Summit at Sundance, and they'll be joined apparently remotely from Steven Soderbergh, and that panel has a whole bunch of people. I believe it has Aaron Crumley on it from Open Indie. It's got it's sponsored by IndieFlix. I believe Sheila Andreen will be on there as well. I highly recommend everyone check that out, because from what I've heard rumblings of, that is supposed to be kind of, they're going to pretty much unveil what is considered to be like the new manifesto for independent filmmaking. And Ted Hope is going to be there, and a whole bunch of other people. It's going to be really good. I think this would be as good a time as any, because we still got tons of people here. I want to have a contest. What do you think, Jerry? You want to have a contest?
I say let's have a contest.
Let's have a friggin' contest. What are we giving away? Dude, we're giving away stuff. No, actually tonight we got it's a twofold contest. The first thing we're going to do is we're going to give away a 1-year subscription for Movie Maker magazine to one lucky person, and that's viewing our show right now. And but here's the kicker. If you win the subscription to Movie Maker magazine, you're also going to be entered into a drawing, a raffle, for a prize that is yet to be determined or revealed, I guess, at a time that is to be not determined. It'll probably be in about 2 months. And it's going to be courtesy of our good friends over at First Glance Film Festival, Hollywood and Philadelphia. They've got some great stuff. Go check it out over at www.firstglancefilms.com. You can follow them on Twitter, twitter.com/firstglancefilms. You definitely want to interact with these people. They've got a lot of stuff going on. If you're a short filmmaker Get your short in there. If you're a narrative, doc, filmmaker, it doesn't matter. Get your stuff in there. And they've got this great thing that they're going to be doing at the Franklin Institute in Philadelphia later on this year, where they're going to be doing a whole family-friendly programming session of their film festival. It's going to be great. It's going to be really great. I'm really excited. So yeah, go to www.firstglancefilms.com and check out for their call for entries and get your entries in on time and do it up well. And that being said, let's go for this. We've got let's see, let's do another Twitter thing. So here's what you're gonna have to do. You're gonna have to tweet out, and this is gonna be good. You're gonna tweet out, follow at Filmsnobbery and at First Glance Film for a chance to win prizes through April during Filmsnobbery.com Tuesdays and Fridays, 10:30 EST, Eastern Standard Time. And make that fit into 140 any way you have to. I don't care. But the first person to tweet that out, I'll say it again, follow Filmsnobbery and First Glance Film for a chance to win prizes through April during Filmsnobbery.com Tuesday and Friday, 10:30 Eastern Standard Time. And the thing of it is that you have to be following both of us for at First Glance Films and at Filmsnobbery. You got to be doing both of us. And I highly recommend that if you're not already a fan of ours on Facebook, you do so as well, because we got some other great contests going on through there in the upcoming month as well. So also follow us over at facebook.com/Filmsnobbery, and I believe they're also facebook.com/firstglancefilms. So check it out. If it doesn't pop up just with that, you can search for it. It comes right up. So I'm going to see who the winner is, unless Jerry, you are already on it.
I'm going on it now.
Oh, you know what? It's actually one of our newer listeners. I've got it. I've got it. And they modified it a little bit, but I'll give it to them. Congratulations to our one of our viewers here, Warrior Films, for their win. I'm going to write that down there just to make sure. Warrior Films. Make sure you send me an email, nick@filmsnobbery.com, with your contact information, phone number, email address, which you'll be emailing me from, and also your address, so I can give it to the good folks at Movie Maker. Get your Movie Maker subscription right over to you as fast as possible. Two things on that note: if you didn't win a Movie Maker subscription, don't fret. I got something that's almost as good as free for you. I've got a Movie Maker magazine subscription for you. How about this? $6. $6 for a whole year. You can't do wrong with that. www.moviemaker.com/subscribe/filmsnobbery. 1 year, $6, done. Forget about it. So do that up, and it's going to be fun. So we're going to do that. So Warrior Films, congratulations on your free subscription. I greatly appreciate it. And also, it's going to be if you didn't win, don't worry about it. We got so many more prizes. They're just going to get bigger and better. We've got some more Movie Maker subscriptions to give away. So Movie Maker Magazine, all of this is courtesy of our good friends over at First Glance Film Festival, www.firstglancefilms.com. So you can thank me. I'll accept the thanks, but thank them more, because it's really coming from them, because I've spoken to those guys personally, and let me tell you, they give a crap about independent film and truly independent film. And that's really important. So I would highly recommend checking these guys out. Again, it doesn't matter what coast of the country you're on, Hollywood, Philadelphia, they got them on both coasts. Go check them out. So let's move on to the next segment, though. I want to move on. And if anyone out there is experiencing any dropouts tonight on the stream or audio or anything like that, I greatly apologize. It could be our connection. It could be live stream. It could be your connection. It could be a million things, but we carry on. And if you miss anything, Well, you know what? You can actually catch it all on filmsnobbery.com once we edit it and post it up, probably in the next few days or so. Also, look for our past interviews with Zach Forsman, which is up right now, and upcoming Ben Hicks and I said Gogo Slava, which is his Twitter name, but Slava Rubin of Indiegogo. So check those out. Those are coming up as well very shortly. Jerry, I'm sorry. You and I just can't seem to talk much tonight.
No, you're on a roll. I don't want to screw anything up. You're thanking everybody. You're not leaving any space for me to jump in and thank anybody, but you covered everybody, so it's good.
Awesome. Well, Jerry, let's talk about something that you brought up to me. Let's talk about how, you remember how back in 2009, there was this big thing that came out with the FTC that was talking about how, there was going to have to be a full disclosure type of situation for bloggers. Specifically, a lot of it was related to guys like us who we go to screenings. Occasionally we get the occasional goodie bag, free DVDs. When you're a film critic, you get some free stuff, and not all of it is really to butter you up, but a lot of it is just it's utilitarian to your job. But they want to start taxing that stuff, and also not taxing that stuff, but they want you to have full disclosure of the company or the people you get that stuff from. And that caused some controversy. Jerry, do you want to elaborate on that just a little bit?
Well, basically, that scared a lot of people when it first came out, because it wasn't very clear on what exactly the new rules were. So a lot of people didn't know if they got, for instance, film bloggers, if they were invited to a screening, did they have to come out and say they were invited to the screening, like in the review or at the bottom of the review? Did they have to say exactly what the studio gave them? If they were sent a screener, did they have to mention that they got a screener? Because then that would get repetitive, and every review started out by saying, I got this screener directly from this company. It does not influence my opinions. So a lot of people were worried about that. A lot of people were worried about past things, what happens with Twitter, and also they didn't know what the whole deal was with the fines. Were they going to be fined if they didn't? Is the reason that the government wants us to list everything is because they want to tax us? So if are they going to tax us for going to see getting a screener or going to a free screening? So there was a lot of confusion, and there still is confusion. But yeah. I don't know if you want to talk about what the most recent article is.
Well, the most recent article actually specifically targeted Twitter folk. Saying that company. It was talking about companies that were doing stuff online, and actually we're also specifically talking about how the FTC is unsure about actually how to enforce this stuff, and that they may target Twitter specifically to try to make up for, I guess maybe to even try to make a statement. I'll actually read a little bit of this article that was actually given here over at www.marketingpilgrim.com, and yeah, it says, and now the FTC is finally realizing how hard these guidelines will be to enforce, and not just for the targeted bloggers, and not even just for bloggers, as we pointed out all along. The FTC's Northeast Regional Director, Leonard Gordon, spoke to the Wall Street Journal about the guidelines, clarifying that the FTC has no intention of stormtroopers taking down suburban houses and seizing the computers of mommy bloggers. Instead, and this is where it gets interesting, and here's the quotes, the agency wants to focus on people who are being paid to make plugs for products in non-traditional contexts, such as tweeting. In particular, they'll go after companies that make claims that aren't true or can't be substantiated. Essentially, the same mission of the FTC and holding companies accountable offline. So it seems like what they're going to do is they're going to go after all these people who are offering, I guess what they say is, the offering something for nothing, or paying people to tweet on their behalf for promise of other goods and services. I think
anyone that does that, or do you get a lot of tweets that you think might be that?
Yeah, I've gotten a few recently, but I think that a lot of it, what it comes down to is, have you seen Felicia Day? I'm sorry, Callie Lewis of Geek Preview TV actually just started doing this recently. Is she started posting ads on her tweets? Now the tweets are specifically marked ads. And I don't have a problem with that at all. But I'm wondering that, if as she's offering these ads and being compensated, I don't know if it's on a per click basis or on an impression basis or a sale basis. I don't know. I'm not going to make up any things about that. But I'm wondering if that is something that may be targeted specifically because she is making claims or she's putting out ads for companies, being paid for those. And maybe the disclosure may not necessarily be 100% on what those companies or those ads represent.
Okay, I don't follow her, so
Callie Lewis is actually, she's the host of Geek Brief TV. Great show. I think they're at like episode 8 or 900 or something like that. And I've been following them since episode like 300. Really nice lady. Her and her husband do this show, and it's really, really good if you're interested in tech stuff. And she's just a sweet person. She's from Texas, like the Fort Worth area. And anyways, the long and short of it is that, I don't see her getting involved in anything specifically evil, but I can see how something like what she's doing with the ads on Twitter could be taken out of context and possibly targeted. And all this really says to you guys is be careful who you do business with. That's all that really says, is because people are now starting to look out for that kind of stuff.
Be careful what you tweet.
Screw that.
I don't believe in that at all.
Something that's a little bit more relevant to you guys out there that I think you guys would really appreciate is there was also this other discussion that went on about a deal that Disney's doing with the Starz network, the channel Starz, STARZ. And which is owned by Liberty Media Corp. And now, for those of you who don't know anything about Starz, they're a movie channel kind of similar to like Showtime and stuff like that. But the big thing about them is that they're the exclusive company for the most part, movie channel that has signed exclusive deal with Netflix to do instant watch on their films. That they show on the channel. Now the thing is that with Disney getting into the mix here with Starz Network, will Netflix possibly lose that contract or that ability to broadcast those movies? What do you think, Jerry?
I think it's a possibility, but I think Netflix is probably going to is definitely going to try to not lose that. Isn't it? What is the exact situation? Like, I heard that there's a contract that expires in 2012, and that's what everyone's worried about?
Yeah, the distribution deal between Starz and Disney, the Starz and Disney distribution deal is set to expire 2012. Starz and Disney need to determine not only how much Starz pays Disney, but also whether DreamWorks Studios will be part of the deal. Now, that's all studio stuff, but how it relates to Netflix is the conditions of that deal may mean that Netflix is no longer able to offer Disney's movies online. According to the Bloomberg tip, Starz wants 5 years of access to Disney films on its cable channel and digital rights. So basically how it affects Netflix is the inability to basically get Disney stuff that is originally streamed on Starz, which is then brought over to Netflix. You're going to lose a lot of that content. And there is a lot of good Disney content that's on through that channel. And basically, this comes at a time where I don't know if there's another story that you guys might have noticed that was out there recently about Netflix, and they're going out there and they're trying very earnestly to try to get other channels and studios to sign on with them for their instant watch so that they can expand upon what they've already built upon with Starz. Now, what a deal like this might mean as far as movies and stuff that are being taken away is they may lose the confidence of some of these people or the confidence may be lost in Netflix from some of these companies' ability to retain business. So, for you guys out there in the indie world, I understand that you're like, how does that affect me? Basically, it affects of what you can and can't watch on Netflix, which is a great resource, I think, for anyone who, really enjoys watching movies. And if you're going to distribute your movie on Netflix at all, you want to know what's going on within their distribution system in that case, because that could affect your movie in the future. So, and if you guys aren't already a part of Netflix, you do know you can click on our banner on Filmsnobbery.com, get a 2-week free trial, and you can get Netflix for as low as $4.99. But I highly recommend going to the $8.99 because then you get the instant watch. And, why even wait for the envelope to get to your door when you can just watch it on your computer? It's awesome. So, And yes, they actually just, did you hear that they just actually brought Netflix instant watching to the Wii? Which is the last console to hold out. We've had it on the Xbox 360 first. They just brought it over to the PS3 not too long ago, although I hate the way they did it. And now they just brought it to the Wii. So you have complete, no matter what you have, it's complete interaction. How do you feel about that, Jerry?
I think that's interesting. I have a Wii downstairs. I don't have it hooked up to the internet, though. I have a terrible connection, so I can't stream. So that's why it comes in handy to actually wait for the envelope for some people, Nick. I have terrible internet connection, and I barely could stream the show to talk to you all. So,
are you gonna now, without getting completely into it, because we're a little shorter on time, but do you think that that's going to change it in the near future? Now you're weighing your options.
I hope so.
I hope so too.
Putting a trailer could take like 10 hours for me, so that's not good.
I could drive to your house, pick up the trailer in my hand, drive home, and upload it in the time it would take for you to do that.
Yeah. Just burn a DVD and just give it to you.
Now Jerry, you're a New York guy. And one of the quintessential New York movies that has come out in the past, the recent past, is a movie made by Marvel Studios, and that was the Spider-Man franchise. Yeah. And that is a uniquely New York movie because Marvel has always set their movies in a very real world. And New York being the setting for most of the biggies, whether it be the Avengers or, the Fantastic Four, and most notably also, the X-Men and also Spider-Man. Sam Raimi, if you guys haven't, we talked about this a little bit on our last show, but I want to bring it up again. Sam Raimi was recently shit-canned from the Spider-Man project, and they said that they're going to do this whole reboot of Spider-Man. The Spider-Man franchise, kind of a Spider-Man 2.0, if you will, and which is kind of weird, being that it's like only maybe a 10-year-old or less than 10-year-old movie. It's like an 8-year-old movie, something to that effect. I think the first one came out, was it 2000? It came out in 2001, didn't it, or 2002?
I think it was May 2002, something like that.
Yeah. So.
11th, and they changed the whole Twin Towers scene. So
here's the thing. Now, one of the largest independent movies of the summer, and I before you guys hit me, I'm using the term independent in the strictest sense. One of the best, and actually I love this movie. It was one of my favorite movies of the summer. And speaking of summer, it was 500 Days of Summer. Directed.
One of my favorite films of the year. Which I finally got to see on Christmas.
I love that movie. You and I both got it on Christmas.
Yeah.
It was awesome. I love that movie. Love that movie. And that was directed by a man by the name of Mark Webb. And speaking of Mr. Webb, he was the gentleman who was actually just tapped or is in negotiations to direct the new setup of, the new send-up of Spider-Man, the Spidey, the new Spidey 2.0 is he's web slinging, and I'm sure there'll be way more CGI, but hopefully more dancing in a good way. Because that dance scene with Joseph Gordon-Levitt in 500 Days of Summer is one of my favorites of all time. That's about the only thing I should say Sam Raimi should take a hint on. Aside from that, everything else, what are your feelings on Mark Webb making the change from a dramatic piece that was also kind of a comedy of 500 Days of Summer and then going to an action movie?
I have no idea. I think it's an interesting choice. I just hope, the musical number fit well in 500 Days of Summer, the little musical stroll. I really hope he does not decide that he should follow in the footsteps of Spider-Man 3 and put another Spider-Man musical number in the film. I don't know. He's very good with visuals, so it would be interesting to see how he could turn the unique visuals of 500 Days of Summer into a Spidey movie. I
mean, you would think Sam Raimi is a slightly more logical choice only because he's coming from a horror background, which has action.
I still think Raimi was a brilliant choice for the Spider-Man films.
Well, Raimi has a horror background that incorporates a lot of action, and not only horror, but he did Darkman. And Darkman was ostensibly his proof to the studios that he could handle a superhero film. whether or not that film was what he, had wanted it to be is something completely different. But I mean, he gave us Darkman. He gave us a superhero movie before they were really popular, and then he resurrected that whole genre with Spider-Man, which is a genre that no one really gave a crap about since the 1989 when the first Batman came out. There were many attempts along the way, the sequels of Batman and the sequels of Superman, and then Superman Returns with Bryan Singer and all that, but no one really gave a crap until Spider-Man came back out. So it's really good. Yeah. So and I mean, you know what though? Someone here in David Brannon, host of Film Courage, which you can actually listen to him and actress Karen Worden. You can listen to them over at Film Courage on latalkradio.com. Let's see, it is Sundays. They have a new time at noon, I believe. So listen live for them, and they're a great show. We syndicate them here on Film Snobbery. They're great show, great people, and also be sure to check out David's movie Night Before the Wedding, which is screening or just screened. My dates are all messed up because I don't have it in front of me. But he was just at or just in or going to be in the Idlewild Film Festival, and best of luck to him. And he's going to be with another friend of the show, David Spaltro, in his movie Around, which is actually the first movie we ever reviewed here on Film Snobbery. So see how it comes full circle. We're almost at the 1 year anniversary, and I give the first movie we ever did. It's awesome. So, but yeah, so, would you think that maybe, David brought up a good question or a good comparison of Jon Favreau going from Swingers to Iron Man, but even though he had several movies in between. I mean, there was Zathura and Maid and, a whole bunch of other stuff. But do you think that would be a good comparison of, going from that kind of movie like Swingers and then going to Iron Man and then a movie like, actually he didn't do Maid, but whatever, it doesn't matter. I lost the point. Anyways, do you think that is a good comparison? A good comparison?
It is a good comparison. I think, yeah, he did do Maid. I just went on his IMDb, but I think it is like a good, because it's kind of the same, the indie background. I like I said, I think it'd be interesting to see what Mark Webb can bring to it. I still think Raimi should have had a fourth. Should have had a chance to do a fourth and to do it his way.
I think a lot of it comes down. I think a lot of it comes down to studio mentality of like, well, you did a trilogy, and the trilogy is where you stop.
And we want a new trilogy, so that way we could, start selling trilogy box sets of the first three while we're marketing the next one.
Exactly. So that being said, guys, that's pretty much a good chunk of the news for the show for this week basically. I want to thank everyone for showing up. I want to thank some people in particular for coming on the show tonight. Jerry, what do you have to say?
Yeah, before we go, I just wanted to bring up. I was talking to you a little earlier about how I'm going over the Stuck Like Chuck, like all my footage for my film, and I'm editing extras and stuff. So I want to throw out a question and see what everyone thinks of it. I've been finding that I have a lot of footage. What I tend to do is when I'm filming, I leave the camera running after takes sometimes by accident, usually on purpose. Sometimes when I leave the room, I turn the camera on just to catch my actors in candid moments. And usually it's like some pretty funny stuff. I leave it on when we're like trying to solve problems and when I'm directing them, and when we're doing rehearsals, I try to tape the rehearsals.
Today, Junior.
Yeah, it's not the traditional behind-the-scenes stuff that you usually see. So my question is, would people be interested in seeing a documentary, like a behind-the-scenes doc, but instead of the traditional full of interviews and just a few glimpses behind the scenes, almost entirely just found footage from set, like just camera running, fly on the wall footage? Would people be interested in seeing that to see what it's really like on an indie set?
Okay.
So that's my question. Send me replies on Twitter or whatever, at GetStuck. You can go on my Facebook. You can go to stucklikechuck.com Nick's better at plugging all that, so why don't you go, Nick?
Yeah, thank you very much, because you were. Yeah, I'm collecting Social Security over here. Jesus Christ. No, no. Yeah, everyone. Definitely check out what Jerry's doing, because Jerry makes a good question of what to include, what not to include in some of your special features, and what he wants to know is, are you guys interested in new content that's generally not the general stuff that's seen on behind the scenes type of docs. So what I want you guys to do is I want you guys to email or send a comment to Jerry. Actually, do it on Twitter, because that's the quickest way. Twitter.com/getstuck. Do it up there. Also, check out his movie. Check out the trailer. See what you think of what he's doing over at www.stucklikechuck.com. Be sure to leave a comment there if you can. He's an awesome guy, and he did what I feel is a really good movie. So check him out. I also, speaking of people doing big things, another thing I want to talk about David Brandon of and Film Courage is look out very shortly for Film Courage Interactive, which is actually going to be premiering also at the Downtown Independent in LA. I don't know the exact dates on that off the top of my head, but definitely check out what they're doing. They're doing a screening series there. The movie is going to be called, I believe the movie they're doing there is called Eugenie or something like that. I can't remember exactly what it is. The fact of the matter is, though, they're going to be doing a Q&A before the show. They've got some whole bunch of stuff going on after. A big, nice event of filmmakers and a nice little roundtable discussion. They've got tons of stuff going on. So be sure to check in with David Brandon and Karen Worden of Film Courage and Film Courage Interactive at the Downtown Independent in LA. So check that out. Another thing I want to thank again, I want to thank First Glance Film for coming down here and giving us some stuff to hand out. Well, they're not down here, but they're here with us in spirit. And go check them out again, www.firstglancefilms.com. I want to thank some people here it was Eugene. I was right. Okay, I did read it correctly. Another thing I want to hit up here is I want to hit up a lot of the people that are in the chat room tonight with us. I want to thank let's see here. Miles Maker, God, I can't even read half of these. I want to thank one of our writers, Amber Ray Riggs, for being here. Warrior Films, Tweak, Bobby Bless, Broadcast Assassin, who is our new executive producer, who you guys will probably meet one way or another behind or in front of the camera on Tuesday as he's flying in this Sunday. And I also want to thank David Brandon for coming in here. First Glance Films, Get Stuck, Marinelle. I know that's you, Jerry. Get Stuck. Model Motion, Rob Leander. Rob, tell Maria I said hello. And Sacred Flash, and Mr. John Trigonis, and Mr. Nathan of Waterholer. Check out his movie, The Waterhole. You guys definitely need to check that movie out. That movie's a good flick. If you need an extra opinion on that one, go to filmsnobbery.com. Check out our review of The Waterhole. Good stuff. Yes, definitely need to check out all those people. Those people are great. They're on Twitter, they're on Facebook, they're all over the place. Interact, do stuff together. It's fun. That's about it. That's about all we have for the show tonight. So I want to say again, thank you to our guest Jon Reiss. Get his book, Think Outside the Box Office. www.thinkoutsideTheBoxOffice.com. Also, be sure if you're a filmmaker, contribute to www.ultimatefilmguides.com. Ultimatefilmguide.com, because if you don't, you're kicking yourself in the butt. There's no reason to not share your knowledge with your fellow filmmakers. I mean, that's the only way that independent film as a genre is going to advance to the next level. So www.ultimatefilmguides.com. Do it up, and everyone, good night.